Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to Try, Adjust, Thrive. I'm your host, Oksana Veres, and this is the podcast where we talk about all things personal growth, mental, physical, and spiritual, so we can stop surviving and start thriving. And we are joined with a very, very special guest today, guys. Okay, let me introduce to you Doogie Sandtiger, aka the Croc King, aka the holder of the Guinness World Record for the greatest Croc collection in the world.
Solid. I'm happy you pronounced my name correct and you got my middle name in there. Yeah, love
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. It's literally such a pleasure to have you. And also, we're in a professional recording studio, guys. We're making moves right now. Try Adjust Thrive community, like we're doing big things right now. Very excited. But yeah, so Croc King has been Doogie Lish has been featured in. Let me just read off the list I got: Vice TV Most Expensivest, Good Morning America, The Today Show, Rolling Stones, and he started out actually in the Hartford Current in our very own Connecticut, which we are both from. And yeah, so that's the intro today. Although he is an incredibly accomplished individual in his Croc
Career, Croc community, Croc landia, I don't know, whatever people call it. It's just it's transcended life at this point. I am Crocs, Crocs am I.
I love it. I love it. He's also so much more than Croc. So that's what we're going to talk about today. All right.
Yes.
So I'm going to give you the floor, and I just want you to talk about yourself a little bit.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Yeah.
Open-ended.
Yeah. Let's talk. Well, it doesn't have to be too open-ended. So let's hear about how the whole Croc journey began. What propelled you to become the Guinness World Record holder of Crocs?
It's a great story, honestly, and I have no shame in telling every part of what led to it. To me, it's just I like to radiate positivity, and I like to explain, to people the journey. Without a journey, without the pursuit of happiness, what is life? We all need to go through these trials and tribulations to experience how great life can be. And that comes from my heart. I mean that honestly, purely. So let's take a journey back into the early 90s. When I was born, 1990, 90s baby. Had a lot of family issues, we'll call it. My parents were not fit to be parents. Their children, they had 8 kids, were taken away one by one by the state of Connecticut. We were all put into foster care, different points, etc. And there's a lot of nuances and nitty-gritty stuff about foster care that people don't realize or they don't understand. And I'll just give you some examples. So when you have like a regular, well, quote unquote, nothing's ever regular, but we'll just call it that, a regular upbringing with, a loving, nurturing family that cares and allows you to try, adjust, and thrive. See what I did there? They teach you life skills, activities of daily living, things like that. Now, what do I mean by that? Like they teach you how to brush your teeth or how to use a razor and shave, how to clip your nails, how to tie your shoes, little things like that. That, again, if you don't come from that darkness that I grew up in, then you don't realize how many things you miss. Now, the big thing for me was the tying of the shoes. So I struggled with that as a little kid. Back in the 90s, slip-on and Velcro shoes were so popular. So I got away with it for a long time. Like light-up slip-on sneakers were the coolest thing.
Yeah,
Sandals.
they were.
I mean, honestly, they still are pretty cool.
I want light-up shoes. I don't know why adults don't like
Yeah.
them.
Some Crocs do light up, which is great, but that's a story for another time. So as I got older, as you can imagine, eventually you can't, I guess, get away with wearing Velcro shoes anymore. So I was getting made fun of and, middle school bullying, high school bullying, etc. I was also it's important to note that I was not the outgoing person that I am today. I was a shell of myself. I was just this quiet, reserved, super shy, didn't talk to anybody. I was the kid that at recess I stayed inside to read a book rather than go outside and have fun and intermingle with peers and stuff like that. But so I never learned how to tie my shoes. As I got older, I was too embarrassed to ask people for help because like at that point now I'm like, you're 14, 15, 16, you're in high school, those are your like big formative years, you're hitting puberty, etc. Life is changing, everything is changing around you, and then the bullies come out.
Oh my God.
And so I didn't want to give them more ammo. So as I outgrew like Velcro and slip-on shoes, I'm like, what is something I can wear instead that I can get away with? What is something current? And then I happened to be walking in my neighborhood, and there was this old lady gardening, and this is all her fault. She did this. She turned me into this croc monster that I am.
Created the beast.
Yeah, but she was wearing these like it was a very like nice purple colored Crocs, and I'm like, I'm a vibrant personality. I like colors, and I thought it was cool. And also back then, Crocs, they weren't obviously as popular as they are now, but they were kind of like nerdy but cool at the same time. And I was like, yeah, I'm nerdy, but I'm also cool. I think I'm cool. And it was so important to me that you can customize them, which that's like me. I like to let my personality flourish, and I like to, be different and show people that I have creativity. So I got my first pair of Crocs, albeit it was a plain black pair, but like with the gibbets, charms, and things like that, you spice them up. Now from there, so I got one pair, and then I was like, oh, let me get a red pair to match this cool red outfit. And then went from 2 pairs to 3 pairs, and now I'm getting pairs that match like different holidays, like a Halloween pair or a Hanukkah pair or etc. And I never really thought it was going to be what it is now, obviously. Now, when it took the life that it has now, so that was also around the same time. So the first pair was in 2007. 2007 was a huge year for me. So that year I turned 16, and in the state of Connecticut, the law has since changed. I think it changed in 2009, but prior to whenever, the year might be off, maybe it was 10, maybe it was 8, whatever. But prior to that law changing, there was a law stating that a child in DCF custody, the Department of Children and Families, cannot emancipate themselves or sign themselves out of state custody. Back then it was 16. You could be 16 and sign yourself out of state custody, which if you think about that, that's wild, right?
That's crazy.
That is
16
crazy.
is a baby.
You're still a kid. You're still in high school. You're still learning. And to give them that power, hindsight is obviously 2020, and eventually they realized it's pretty immoral, so they changed it to 18, and it's since 18. But so back then, I turned 16. I didn't want to be in state custody anymore. I think it was just a different era. It was a different time. The system itself was struggling horribly. This is all Googleable stuff. Like, it was falling apart. There was a lot of internal issues, and it just bouncing. So I was put in foster care the first time at age 5, and I was bouncing in and out from 5 to 16. So I had like this 11 year, like my whole life basically, because birth to 5, you don't really know what's going on. And then from 5 to 16, like these very important formative years, and I just missed out on everything. I missed out on every birthday, every friend's birthday. I missed out on my childhood, man. Like, it took everything from me. And the system, again, I just want to hone in on how messy it was. And I'll give you an example. Like, they didn't take me to my doctor's appointments, though. Like, I was,
wow.
Yeah, like, you're not a priority. You're just like this charity case to most foster parents, right? You're just this kid that they're taking in. And unfortunately, it's still true of some people, not everybody, but they want to have that, like, yes, I'm saving a kid kind of thing just for the appearance. But then behind closed doors, it's a lot different.
And, pardon me for interrupting.
No
No
worries.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You work in foster care now.
Now I
as an
do.
adult, too. Right?
I work for, which is crazy. I work for DCF. You know that? What is that? The quote? If you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of how it was. I remember. So like as a salty prepubescent teenager going through all these emotions and hormones and things. Like I was like mad at DCF, and it's like who is DCF? It's not like a person; it's this entity, right? And my whole life as a kid, I was like, F them, and they're horrible, and that was just like the angsty mentality behind it. So 2007, we'll bring it back, reel it in. Again, first pair of Crocs, signed myself out of state custody. Now I'm on my own. What do I do from there? How do I thrive in this world? And here's the crazy part. I didn't have a plan. I was focused on today, living through today, eating today, and then waking up in the morning. That was it. I just wanted to get out of state custody. I wanted to go to driving school, get my driver's license. I wanted to go to concerts. I wanted to have friends. Like I wanted to be able to hang out with people, and I just wanted to be a kid, man. Oh God. It still gets me emotional to this day just thinking about how I was robbed of so much. But like I said, it's a pursuit. Life is a pursuit, right? And without that perspective, would I have gotten to child welfare now as an adult? Would I have the same like adoration or appreciation or respect for my life and the lives of others? Probably not. I wouldn't be the same person. So when I saw myself out, didn't have a plan, and I finished out high school living in a park, which it's crazy to think about now all these years later. And every day was an experiment. I learned every day, like, okay, it's raining. Let me go get a tent for the rainy, cold days or the days it was snowing and this and that. And I had a lot of it was just a lot of nights like writhing back and forth. And it's just when you put yourself in that headspace of I'm a kid, I'm sleeping outside, it's raining out. Like I would do my homework on the bench by moonlight, right? Like, and then I remember I have these weird flashbulb memories of it would be a cloudy night and then the clouds would cover the moon and it would get dark and I'd have a tantrum and start crying I just wanted to finish my homework. That's it, man. That's it. And this was the reality for me for a long, long time. So I had what was my motivation? There was none. I had no motivation to wake up every day. No motivation to go to school. No other than I wanted to have friends. I wanted to have connections. So I used school as just a social space. I didn't care. I didn't have any food or I had one outfit of clothing. You think I cared about going to biology class or math? No. I went to school to hang out, to be funny. And I realized that at a young age too, is I like to make people laugh, and it made me feel good that I can, make other people feel good. And I became a class clown at that. But on the inside though, I was hurt. All the trauma from everything growing up. And I took it out on the school system and the teachers and everything. But mostly I took it out on myself. And I was hard on myself for so long. And I ended up losing just my will to live. I didn't care about anything anymore. So, and trust me, this all leads back to Crocs somehow. No, it's crazy, right? We're building it. We're building it. We're building it. So I started writing this bucket list. I was inspired. I believe it was 2007. It might have been 2008. This movie with Jack Nicholson, I think, and maybe Morgan Freeman, if I'm correct, called The Bucket List came out.
Okay, yeah.
And it was so cool. It was just a quick premise. They're just these two old dudes that it just spent a lot of their life being angry and not doing anything. And they're like, we're old now. Let's do crazy stuff before we die, before we kick the bucket, right?
Right.
And then that movie inspired a lot of other spin-off type stuff. And then there was this show. Now, this is what really inspired me to start my bucket list. Between that movie and then there was a show on MTV called The Buried Life. And it was basically this group of college dudes that they had this bucket list of I think it was 100 things they wanted to do before they died. And what was so heartwarming and inspiring about that show was for every item they cross off their list, they'd pick a random stranger and help them cross something off their list. So it was a really heartwarming show. It was really positive. And I found myself enjoying it. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. It's inspiring me. And I hadn't felt that spark, for life. Because again, the home circumstances were garbage, horrible. But this show, like, it brought me great joy. That movie brought me great joy. So what did I do? I started writing my own bucket list down. And originally, the first iteration of it, it was only 100 items were on it. Only, I think I just modeled it after the show. The show only had 100. But I realized that there's more, like, what happens if I cross off all 100, which I don't, even now, I don't think is possible. And I'll tell you why. So the 100th item, I put something impossible that would never happen. Hear my father say he's proud of me. And I did it as a weird, like, kind of humorous, but also slightly masochistic. Like, he'll never, ever say that'll never happen. He hates me, but it's okay. So I had put that on there as like a funny end stop. Like, this is where the bucket list ends. But then as I was crossing off like a shit ton of them, I'm like, oh, wait, my story doesn't end there. I don't want to hit 100 and then just, life's over. See ya, everybody. Kick in the bucket.
Right.
So I continued writing this bucket list. As of today, I'm over 500 items on it, things on the list. And as I was collecting Crocs, this is where they cross paths. One of the things on my bucket list was to own 366 pairs of Crocs, which is one for every day of the year, including leap year. Can't have February 29th and not have a pair to wear every 4 years.
You thought of everything.
I crossed all the X's, dotted all my lowercase j's, and you know what I mean? So once I hit the 366, I just crossed it off. I was super excited, super happy. And then I just kind of moved on and started doing other bucket list stuff. And one day I'm browsing in the bucket list, like through the actual book itself, it's like, break or set a Guinness World Record. I was like, wow, I never thought I'd ever in my life actually get to crossing this off, but I'm talentless. And it's true. Like, I'm just an average human. Like, I'm not fast. I'm not athletic. I'm clumsy. I can't play an instrument. I'm tone deaf. I suck at most things. Most things. Not everything. They're like, I'm good at certain things, but whatever. I suck at most things. I'm just put on this earth just as me, just an average human being with big goals and big dreams and a big heart. Anyway, so I was like, what can I do to break or set a Guinness World Record? And I'm like, I have 366 pairs of Crocs. What is the Guinness World Record for most pairs of Crocs? So they have an online database which has every record ever attempted or created or passed, etc. And Crocs wasn't on there. I was like, oh, maybe that's an oversight or something. So I emailed them and they got back to me like, well, no one has ever submitted. So you would be the first person. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool because I would automatically get it, but kind of lame because I'm running unopposed. It's like, imagine like running for like class president and you're running against yourself. Like, it doesn't feel as earned. Right? In a way. So I kept collecting. And at that point, when I had finally reached out to them, I think I had like 744 pairs, I think was the number. And they're like, oh, that's so cool. Why don't you just wait to submit when you have way more? I was like, well, what is way more? Give me a number. Like, 1,000's a pretty cool number. I submitted with the 744 anyway. That's just who I am. Once you tell me to do something, I'm going to do literally the opposite.
I'm literally same.
Yeah. No, don't submit now. Okay. I'm hearing do it. So I did. But then in order to like set a record or be in the database, you have, and like if you update it, you have to resubmit. So every year they randomly reach out to me like, all right, you have 1,000. Now you have 1,500. Now you have 2,000. Now et cetera. And they keep telling me to like resubmit because they want, now here's the ultimate goal. There's the online database and then there's the actual print book, which the print book, in order to be in that, it's a lot more prestigious. You can't just say, hey, Guinness, put me in that book. They have to reach out to you. They have to come to you. And so they did last year. They came to me and they're like, hey, we want to put you in so last year was 23 and they do it a year ahead. So it would have been the 24 book. So at the time, I had like 2,000 something. So for context, I'm at 3,377 pairs at this exact moment, but it goes up every day because I'm always buying new ones, but besides the point. But
amazing.
Thank you. So they're like, hey, we want to put you in the book. But like it was a very rushed timeline. They're like, all right, there's a whole process but yada, yada, yada. I was like, I want to get more. And I feel like 2000 in the grand scheme is like, it's a lot, but when you look against other records, like someone with like the most Nikes has like 15,000 or something like that, or the most shoes. I think it's the most shoes in general. Maybe it's like 15,000. And you look at like all the collections, and like I was like, mine pales in comparison. I want to be up there with them. So I was like, all right, I'll hit you guys up when I hit 3,000. So I finally hit 3,000, I think in January of this year. And they're like, all right, so you hit 3,000. Do you want to be in the book? I was like, I do, but to me, everything is go big. So why not 4,000? And I'm already almost halfway between 3,000. I'm at like close to 3,400, which is basically 3,500. You know what I mean? So that's the ultimate goal, is to be in the book. And then that's how the Croc thing exploded into what it is now. And like I said, I wasn't joking earlier when I said it has transcended everything. Like my life has drastically changed. All these opportunities that opened up for me it's not because of the Crocs, but like, if I didn't have the bucket list, I wouldn't have the Croc collection.
Right.
If that old lady in my neighborhood wasn't wearing those purple Crocs, imagine if she was wearing like Nike slides or something. I could be the world record holder for Nike. I don't know. It's all about happenstance. That's what she was wearing, and I decided right then and there that that's what I love. I got a pair, and here we are.
Wow.
I know I just fed you a lot. It was a lot.
That's a beautiful story.
It's a lot, man. I know. Jeez.
But you know what is really inspiring? That you kind of just put one foot in front of the other. No pun intended. Crocs. Like,
gotcha.
You quite literally just, and you had no idea.
No idea.
You just had an idea, and you rolled with it, and then one thing leads to another, and it's becoming this huge defining part of your life. And that's just
like, I am recognized now when I go out, which I never thought this was going to happen. Like, I was at the gym last week, and some girl came up to me with a Sharpie. Who brings a Sharpie to the gym? So, can you sign my Croc? I'm like, oh, that's so funny. And that weird stuff happens a lot now.
Is that uncomfortable? Is that weird? Because I've talked about this on the podcast. I feel like being famous would be so.
There's certain instances where I think it does get weird. Like, I was literally on the treadmill running, huffing and puffing, and like leaking sweat. Right. And I'm like, you couldn't just wait until I was done. Like, and now here's the thing is, like, I'm just like on the celebrity hierarchy, I'm a Z-list, like the bottom barrel. You know what I mean? So I understand that it makes people happy, like when they see an idol or something, because I'm the same way. I'm a fanboy. Like, if I ever met Tom Brady, I would jump into his arms like his next wife. I don't care. I love Tom Brady. It is what it is. I effing love Tom Brady. But I would do that with any of my idols, because that makes you happy when you meet somebody who you've looked up to or have seen from afar do these great big things. So anywhere I go, if people take pictures with me all the time, I'm okay with it. I've been asked to sign weirder things that I won't talk about on here. We'll talk later off camera. But I've signed a lot of interesting things, and I don't know, it's cool. Like, I could just be like in the line at Target, and like the cashier would be like, "Oh my God, it's the Croc guy." I'm like, "Yeah, that's it. I'm the Croc guy. Hi." And they'll ask me to sign something or whatever, or take a picture. But it's cool. It's cool. It makes people happy. That's at the base of everything. That's what it's all about. I want to make people happy, and it makes myself happy to see other people happy too. Like yesterday, another bucket list item was to dress as Waldo in public and go to crowded places, and I did that all day. I saw your story. Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. And that it brought great joy to people. And like, for me, for selfish reasons, like, I'm like, oh, this is a bucket list item, I want to have fun. But then one of the unintended consequences of that, in a good way, is that other people joined in on the fun. Like, I was walking around malls, and people were coming up and like, I found Waldo. And just for that like brief moment, that to capture people's like love and joy just in that one moment, to me is just what it's all about. And that's the bucket list. And I live and breathe by this bucket list. And it honestly, it goes back to being that kid and having zero motivation to do anything. So I had to force myself outside of my comfort zone. I had to force myself to do things that I thought were cool or fun. And not all of them are like as extreme as jumping out of an airplane, but so, like one of them was literally the first item is graduate high school.
Yeah.
Like to think like I was a kid writing that, and I was just like I wanted to be happy and proud of myself for something. I was like, so like if you go through the bucket list, literally number 1, graduate high school. I just wanted to do that. And so there's some smaller things like are Tootsie Pops still a thing?
Tootsie Pops are still a thing.
Okay. So one of the things on my bucket list was to find out how many licks
it takes to get to the center of a
Yes.
Tootsie Pop? Oh my gosh.
And I did that. So I sat there and filmed my sounds crazy.
It's iconic.
Yeah.
I love it.
So I sat there and I filmed myself on my laptop. This was like in 2017. It took like 8 hours. And I sat there one by one tallying every lick, and I forget exactly how many it is, but when I completed it, I emailed the company, and yes, and they sent me a certificate, like congratulations, yes, and I still have it.
No.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So if you want to do that,
You get a certificate.
you get a certificate.
I mean, it's quite a time commitment. You said 8 hours.
It took me like 8 hours because I was like, I didn't know what constituted an official lick, so I was like, 1, 2, and I just all whatever 1,200 or 800. I don't even know the exact number, but I have it. It's on. They printed on the certificate. They wrote my number on there, which I thought was super cool.
I love that.
Just so random, right?
That is so
fun.
random, but I mean, I think people forget that you don't have to do. Not everything you do in life has to be this extravagant, huge deal in order to be cool. In order to be like, I was just talking about this in my last episode, how the best days that I ever have are just the days where I like fully commit to something. Like I'm fully present in doing something, engaging, and it doesn't have to be the coolest thing on the planet, but like I just do it. Like I just commit to like it could be finding out how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop, or it could be just like practicing an instrument that I suck at, just like I want to discover what sounds are pretty.
Like the flute.
I play. Yeah, I like the flute. I do play the flute.
I know you do. I saw.
Yeah.
And I saw how happy it made you to talk about it. So I was like, okay, so everybody has their things. That's what life is about. That's the point.
I do. And you know what? I'm so comfortable admitting that I am quite mediocre at the flute. But it's just fun to play. And like I'm kind of trailing off, but I guess
That's okay.
my point is that like I think it's so important that's kind of where Try, Adjust, Thrive came from. Like the title, it just like I really wanted to do a podcast, and I struggled a lot with self-limiting beliefs for a really long time. I still do. I think we all do in different aspects of our lives. And I just like had one night where I thought of the title and I was like, just do it. Try, adjust, thrive. Like that's literally how we should all live our lives. Like there shouldn't be a worry of what's right or wrong. There shouldn't be a worry of like, well, like, am I wasting my time doing this? Is it better for me to spend my life doing something else? Like, ultimately, I don't think the universe cares what you do. I think it just cares how much effort you put into it. And like, just commit to something. And then you look back and like, you're like, I did all this cool shit. And
Yep.
it all piles up. And also the amazing way that one door leads to another that you never would have known if you didn't just try, adjust, thrive.
Facts. 100% facts.
Yeah.
Like everything's like, that's part of like what makes my bucket list so cool to me is it's like the antithesis to like how my life started. Like everything was robbed and taken from me. Mm-hmm. And now I'm replacing everything with these new experiences, these new memories, these new goals. Again, some as big as becoming a doctor, but then some as little as licking a freaking lollipop. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And then it ranges things in between, and it weaves, and And I look back on these with just great joy. And like I have a photo album of every time I cross one off. I take an iconic photo every time of me completing it. And then I just look back on it and like brings back how I felt in those moments. Like there's no greater joy to me in me setting a goal, no matter how outlandish, and then completing it. And then like when I remember like when I put be on a TV show, I was a kid. I didn't say that's never gonna happen, but it's cool to be there. And then in the moment of doing the show with 2 Chainz, you're not processing it in real time. It's so surreal. And then afterwards, I'm like, I look back on the videos and like I'm like, that was such a dope experience. That was so much fun. And because you really can't, for things like that, you can't process it in real time. You can't appreciate it in real time because it's just so much. And that's true of anything on my list, or most people, like true of any goal. Like you really appreciate it afterwards when you can reflect on it and talk to people about it and go over like, similar interests with people. And then me, the bigger picture is like I help inspire people, and people have told me like, now I have a bucket list. I'm like, cool, let's do something together on it. Like that'd be fun to like collaborate on that. And that's what I've been doing now. And sometimes I stray away from the bucket list, and then I realize that's when I'm the least happiest, when I forget about it, or like when I'm too busy, put it on the back burner. Like I'm sure like your show is very important and near and dear to you. And I'm sure if you had to take a break from it, it would hurt your inner soul.
Oh, big time. And the times that I have taken breaks from it, because I'm going on like a year and a half with Try Adjust Thrive now, but the first year was very like, it was more for me than it was for the audience. It was very much like I just need to commit to doing something, and it was very on and off. I would take months off at a time, but then there was like a little part of me that kept just like saying, go back to the podcast. And like the interesting thing is, are you spiritual at all?
I am just a lover of life. I believe in higher powers, higher forces. I believe in brown Jesus. I believe in all that.
Okay. All right.
He was Middle Eastern.
Do you believe in like synchronicities? How sometimes like the universe just like like things fall into place.
Absolutely. Yeah. Universe is that's one of my biggest things that me and my friends talk about, how things just happen. I believe in signs and all that. So no, I'm right there with you.
Right. Okay. So out of curiosity, have you heard of the book The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron?
I have not.
So it's this book. It's called The Artist's Way, and it's for artists, but she believes that everyone is an artist in one way or another. And it's essentially this workbook of 12 weeks where you just become more creative. And she has assignments at the end of each chapter that you
Sounds cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, it's for literally anybody and everybody. I mean, there are actors and writers and painters who do the book, but there are also lawyers and doctors and, cashiers, like any human being, because we are all creations, so we all have the capacity to create. And I would say that you lead a very creative lifestyle, like in a lot of ways. And creativity is a very wide range, but I digress. So in this book, as you do the assignments, she literally talks about how synchronicities just start to like the universe gives you little nudges to like point you in the right direction, to just like throw you a bone and be like, hey, your energy would be well used here. And I kid you not, I've been working on The Artist's Way over the past, I'd say month now. And out of nowhere, so many random synchronicities with this podcast started coming up, including my sister reaching out to me about you, friends, just for background. My sister and Doogie did you go to high school together or
community college? Long time. I actually had the years wrong. When we talked, I said 2011. It was actually earlier than that. It was like 2009 and 2010. Yeah. And I was like looking back on that because like she also, I don't know if she still does photography, but I remember she did photos, like use me as like a test dummy to like practice on. And I forgot about that was 14 years ago. 15, yeah, 2009, 2010. Like 14, 15 years ago. Crazy.
no, that's nuts. So yeah, guys, we go way back without even realizing it.
Which is because you said you had met me before when you were like a kid, and I'm thinking when we did, that's probably it. When she did the photos, it was at your house.
It had to have
Yeah.
because I was the little sister, so I always wanted to see what was going on. But yeah, so like this all came to be like, so I like prayed after my sister reached out to me about you, because I was just like, no way does like the Croc King want to do a collaboration with me. That's so dope. And it was so out of nowhere, and I literally like wrote about it in my journal about like the journal I use for all these assignments. And the author, again, her name's Julia Cameron. I was like, Julia, thank you so much. But where was I going with this? I like totally lost my train of thought.
So I'll make a comment too. Here's the thing. I believe in just humans supporting humans, right?
Yeah.
And I do a lot of like, I don't know what the right word would be, like pro bono stuff, where like I help people in certain situations, certain instances. I don't charge people to promote. Like I don't care enough. It's not about money. It's about helping people reach whatever goals they have or their potential or what they want to do. And like, so when she had reached out to me, I was like, why would I not help? Like we all started somewhere. Like I remember when I had a grainy BlackBerry flip phone taking horrible photos in my basement of my Crocs, and then it obviously exploded to where it is now. But I would not have been there without little help along the way. I had people help me take photos. I had just things go viral that people shared. So without those people helping me, none of this would have ever been made possible, right? So moments like that, like I can't think of specific examples, but like I just go out of my way to do random things. Like I see friends that I haven't talked to maybe since like high school, not because anything happened, but just because we're old now and life got in the way. And like they'll post about, and I do this all the time. So I'll have friends like post about, I have this, they're in a theater and they're performing in a show, or they're in a band and they're performing in a show, and they'll post where it is, and I just show up. I just show up. And they're like, what?
That.
Why are you here? I'm like, I'm here for you.
Yeah, and you know what? It blows people's minds when you're just nice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why?
That's everyone. See, that's the problem with the human nature and human condition is we're wired to think that people are out to get us. That's just how we're wired. We're wired to think that there's an ulterior motive, because let's be real, most of the time there is. But you gotta appreciate the diamonds in the rough, because that diamond may change everything for you. That diamond may be just that sliver of hope that you need. And this is not just me speaking to you; it's me speaking to the general you. Of like, someone might be going through a bad situation, and they come across an inspirational quote that like, oh my God, that changed my life, and then they change their perspective from there.
100%.
And like showing up to like my buddy in his band, like I've never seen like that's what makes him happy. And for me to just show up and see them all be happy and have a good time and reconnect, what?
And it literally creates a ripple effect that people just don't understand. This is why it's so important to just like generally be a kind person. And I can't believe that that's something that people don't understand or prioritize. It makes my heart hurt that we don't just innately know and want to be kind to each other. I mean, we do. So like there are people who do, but a lot of people are just, like you said, there's a lot of like very fear-driven, like smallness, greed-driven. Like there's just like a lot of icky, yucky, low vibrational energies that, and I think it's probably largely because those people unfortunately weren't given that same grace. And I feel like it's just like a hurt people type of thing.
Correct.
Because once you experience the profound just like joy that you get and feeling of value that you get when people just are kind to you for no reason, you're like, wait, there's no other way to live life. I want to spread love. Because the more you spread love, the more others spread love. And it really I truly do believe that love is like so much stronger than hate. It's just people are afraid of love because it's like, oh, well, if I believe in love and if I embrace love, then like I was wrong all along, you know?
While you were talking, I was like, I had this overwhelming like sense of emotion from. So what you're saying really boils down to just show up for people. That's what people need to do. Show up for each other, support each other, and it brought me back to in fifth grade. There was a school play. I was Jiminy Cricket. I was green.
Oh my God. I love that.
And I remember how I was hurt because I didn't have anyone there for me. Like I had no family, and I remember like my classmates, everyone like waving to like their parents, and I'm just like, oh, this is icky.
Oh.
There's nobody here. And I remember like doing my lines, and I remember there was one part where I got choked up because like I was like looking for somebody as if like I had family out there, knowing I didn't, and it just felt icky, and it feels icky, and it's moments like those where that's how I don't lose sight of what I'm doing now is because, and that's another reason why I do a lot of the things I do, like not to be sappy, but that's part of life is just I embraced that moment and how it made me feel, and it like garbage. There's no other. Loneliness is the worst feeling, and feeling like you're not supported, feeling like there aren't cheerleaders rooting for you, feeling like there aren't people in your corner. So that's why a lot of times I try to be in people's corners, even if it's from afar. I try to do what I can. I try to make these memories with people. And like you said, like the universe throws bones at us. Like perfect example. Yesterday, when I was dressed as Waldo doing my bucket list stuff, I went all around Connecticut, different venues, different places, bars, restaurants, malls, just for the comedy factor of being Waldo and entertaining people. And it all mattered to me because a lot of times when I do this bucket list, I'm like, what am I doing? This is so stupid. Like, why am I here? I look like a clown. I'm an idiot. But then I'm like, that's part of the fun. But anyway, so I was walking across a parking lot to leave somewhere to go to the next spot. And this like SUV is driving by, and then they like start honking and they roll down their windows. There's like this little kid, I think it was like 4 or 5, like jumping for joy and elated and happy and waving and smiling. And I thought nothing of it. I was like, oh, that's so cute. He like sees like this person that's dressed up and he thinks they're fun. So I waved back and didn't think anything of it. So I get to my car and I'm sitting there GPSing like the next place when I noticed, like, I would assume his mother and him were walking through the cars, weaving in and out. And I'm like, are they looking for me? Uh-oh.
Oh my gosh, they were looking for Waldo.
They were looking for Waldo. And then they got to my car and they found me. They're like, we found you. And then she was like, do you mind taking a picture with my son? She's like, he's autistic and Waldo's his favorite character. And I was like, this is so strange that of all characters in the world he would choose, it's Waldo. And she showed me pictures. He's at home. That's what he dresses up as. That's his comfort thing is Waldo. And I'm like, what? Mind blown. What are the odds of that? And this kid is freaking out because he thinks Waldo's real. And he just like met his superhero in real life. And he like ran up to me and gave me a big hug. And she showed me, like, she was like scrolling through the photos. Like, this is his everyday outfit. I'm like, what are the odds of all of this? That led it, like you could have been a minute earlier and not driven, or a minute later, or I could have been a minute earlier, and that would have never happened.
That's the thing. That's why I'm like, when people are like, oh, it's just a coincidence, I'm like, no, that was divine timing.
Yes, okay, I've never heard that phrase, divine timing. Oh, I love that.
Divine
what?
Timing.
I'm gonna use that. I'm stealing that.
Yeah.
It really was though, and then like think about that kid. For the rest of his life, he's going to have that memory that he met Waldo.
Right.
Like his hero.
Honestly, that kid's probably going to believe in magic more than the average person, too. And that's a really powerful thing, to just have this whimsical way of going about life and, like, just believing that dreams can come true. And that's, you don't know what that's setting his psyche up for. Like, it really could be setting him up to believe that dreams really do come true. And they do, if you believe they do. Like, everything is mindset. And
100%.
Like, And that might not happen, but it also really very well could.
It opens the door, and that's all I care about. And like he could have just forgotten about it. But you know what? In that moment, he felt like he probably felt like a superhero.
Yeah.
And in that moment, even obviously being a little kid, he doesn't understand emotions the way we do. But to see his mother, her light up, seeing him light up, to me that was everything. Because now, to the very least, she has that experience. Because it's not just my experience or his, it was her experience too.
Right.
Like weaving through the cars to try and find Waldo, and then like I found you. I was like, this is, what do you call it? Divine timing. Divine timing. Working at like its best in that moment.
Right.
And these things happen all the time, especially when you put yourself out there like that. And like you said, you just got to show up. You got to commit, right?
You have to do it. You just have to commit, and you have to, even if you feel insecure about it. Like you said yourself, you were walking around like Waldo, like asking yourself, what the fuck am I doing right now? But like
that really did happen. I was like, I'm going to go home. This is so dumb.
But like at the end of the day, you just went along with it. And then you created memories for people.
It was so silly.
And it just the positive ripple effect it has, and also the divine timing. There's just so much. There's really no loss when you just go for the things that you want to do, no matter how silly or goofy or senseless they might be to other people. And you know what? That actually, I feel like that brings us to something that I really wanted to talk about.
Sure,
with you, which is just living life, whatever way you freaking want to, and not doing.
That's my MO.
Yeah, not like feeling like you need to go with any sort of grain or conform, and just being your most authentic, true self. Because I feel like when we do that, that's when opportunities actually line up, because we are literally being who we are meant to be on this planet. Yeah. So I love that too. I don't know. I thrive by just being me, and that's like how it is. And I know a lot of people put too much stress and pressure on themselves to try to portray someone they're not. Yeah. And it's like in certain situations, okay, if you're like a judge or a lawyer, I'll get it. You got to put up a front. But I think what separates me from most people is I'm literally the same person all the time. I am uncensored, unfiltered, and can be perceived as unhinged depending on whose perspective. Just because I do these dumb, funny things. Like, to me, again, to other people it may be dumb, but to me, it's just bringing me joy. What does it matter? Like, if I look silly dressed as this character, to you, if I'm not hurting anyone, right? As long as if you're not hurting people and you're doing fun things for you and you're authentic about it, then to me, that's when you've made it in life. And I get a lot of shit for my Croc collection all the time. Like, oh, you could be donating. There's so much better use of your time and money. And I'm like, well, you don't know what I do. In fact, I donate hundreds of pairs of Crocs every year. And I don't need to advertise that. People don't need to know that. Like, what does it matter? If you're donating and you're taking pictures and filming it, are you really doing it for the right reasons? Right.
Like, you know what I hate? I'm just going to sidebar. Like those YouTubers that like film themselves giving a homeless person a sandwich. Like, what if they didn't consent to be filmed? What if they didn't want to be filmed? Right. Why are you filming it? Just give him the sandwich. He's hungry. Right. And then walk away. Let him eat it. Maybe he doesn't want it. Right. Maybe ask him. Maybe he's allergic to dairy and you put cheese on his sandwich. You know what I mean? Like, but...
No, so, and actually, that's a thing. I live in New York City. Like, sometimes homeless people don't want you to give them their random food,
and that's their prerogative.
Because I think some people were getting poisoned or something. Because
okay.
People are crazy.
Yes,
there are people who do really awful things. So, yeah, but that's just a side tangent.
Yeah, and so that's my thing. Is like for my whole life, like authenticity is so important to me, and I feel like a real human being. I don't know how to explain it. It's like. So at work, I'm the same person. In all my interviews, I'm the same person. At the bar, I'm the same person. At home, I'm the same person, because then now I feel like when you try to put on these different hats, you're lying to yourself. Like, why do you have to act different with this friend group or with this friend group or with this? Like, how do you keep up with which personality you are today?
And you know
It's
what?
too hard.
100%. And you know what? Upon a lot of like self-reflection and just figuring out how the way the world, figuring out the way the world works, I feel like a lot of that is actually just people pleasing.
Yes.
You don't,
yes.
because, and the core of people pleasing, it's this fundamental belief that you're not enough as you are. And that couldn't be farther from the truth for every single human being on this planet. And that's something that I take a lot of pride in just saying over and over and over again on this podcast, because I myself didn't believe that I was enough for a long time. And that's why I was playing small for so long and not doing something like a podcast and not, not letting my light shine as brightly as I do now. And in the past, I was one of those people who did kind of, I was still, Oksana from Newington, Connecticut. Oh wait, maybe I shouldn't say that on the podcast. People don't need to know where I'm from.
It's a big town. You'll be okay.
No, it's okay. No, I'm kidding. But no, like, I'm still like Oksana at heart, but I did kind of alter myself a little bit to fit in because I thought that's what I needed to do. And when you can learn to take those walls down with yourself and just literally be unapologetically you, it's not only like signaling and rewiring your brain to understand like, oh no, I am safe to be who I am unapologetically. But I really do think, like, going back to the whole universe thing, like, I think the universe just wants us to be that way. And I think that that's how we can serve the world best, because there's nobody like us. Just like there's no two identical snowflakes, there's no identical two human beings. So we all have a lot of really valuable light to share with the world. And a lot of, like, no two people have the same exact life experiences either. And you're a beautiful example of someone who has completely alchemized their insecurities and their life experiences into something so, like, amazing, so forward thinking and so productive, and like you've just like that's my train of thought. I got so like into it.
It's powerful.
It's no, it's really powerful to be able to just be your truest self.
Which to me, that's true freedom right there. Which
yes,
when you're talking about like the people pleasing. So for me, let me talk about that for a second here. That was like, I guess for a long time, and I'm talking about years ago, I was pretty much the same way. It was more so I wanted people to want me around, I guess. And that just stems from the childhood of loneliness and bouncing around and not having, a good system or supporters or family or and even with that, like, I didn't have a lot of friends because I was constantly moving in foster care from city to city, group home to group home, foster home. Like, I bounced around all over. So it made me, in a way, both want and long for relationships, but also resent people, because it was like this defense mechanism where I was like, well, I'm only going to be living here for 4 months. What's the point in making friends? What's the point in developing or cultivating these relationships just to be torn away from them? Because I was torn away from when I say the system took everything from me, it took everything, and it took away my joy. And that's the big, like, not just materialistic things. I'm talking about internal. It caused internal conflict and war, and these are like the latent unintended consequences that the stuff inside, the internal strife, people don't see that. Like, to have your psyche develop to the point where you refuse to cultivate relationships with your peers because you know the system is going to put you in a foster home in a different city. Think about that, how that somebody up. Think about how that destroys a kid, a child, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, 9, you know what I mean? all those years, like, I'm not playing on the playscape. They don't want me around. I don't even want, and then it kind of manifests in that way where I don't want to be around them. And then eventually I was so isolated and I just felt so lonely where now I need to break out of the shell. Now I need human connection. And that's when like I became like a class clown and I started utilizing, I was always like this chunky, nerdy, glasses, people made fun of me. But then I noticed that if I made them laugh and I joked with them, then they thought I was cool. And because laughter is like the best, or comic relief is such a great connector to people. So then I just started people pleasing in that sense. Like, let me do dumb stuff and sabotage school and sabotage myself to make people laugh. And then and for a long time, you lose sight of who you are. You stop being yourself. You're a performer. And that's the moment when I realized that everything I'm doing is to perform for other people and I'm not taking care of myself. And I didn't for year after year, for decades. Like I said, I'm 33. So for years, I just like, even, what's crazy to me is like when I go back on my social media, and this is why I love social media. I hate people who hate on social media. It's a digital diary. I know some people do.
I hate on it.
But for me, so like we have different motivations and different experiences, right? So like just going back on what you said a few minutes ago. So my experience with social media is like I didn't have family photo albums and family get-togethers and heirlooms and people to be proud of me. So then I used like this was my diary, right? So this is my photo album. This is this experience that I'm going to see years down the road. I don't have a lot of childhood pictures. And to me, that's so sad. It's because there was nobody there to take photos of me. So now, see, I take all these negatives, and this is what I mean by like I'm rewriting literally everything. Like now I take photos of everything, and I don't care who's watching. I don't care who's judging. I don't care if there's nobody watching. And there have been, I'm sure, times where a photo got 0 likes. I don't care about that. Yeah. I care that that is what I liked. That's what I wanted in that moment. That was an experience, and that was something I enjoyed. Or like I'll just like when I post Crocs all the time. I don't care if nobody sees it or if everybody sees it. That's a digital diary for me. That's my photo album. It just so happened crazy and I got rich off of it, but that's another story. You know what I mean? That's just a sidebar. But this idea that you can't have fun and you have to perform for other people, that's when social media sucks. That's when it sucks the life out of you. And so I got a little bit off topic, but going back, if I go back on my social media from like forever ago, the one thing that sticks out to me the most is that I never posted Crocs in the beginning. And the reason was I was embarrassed. I thought it was like stupid. And that is the textbook of like, I'm performing for people. I didn't post them. These make me so happy, but I don't post them because I think people are going to laugh at me or think it's stupid or so that's when social media sucks, when you're doing it for other people. And now I'm like, I don't give a shit. What I want, when I want, how I want. If I'm going to post a picture of my Crocs, I'm going to do that. If I'm going to post a picture of me as Waldo, I'm going to do that. I don't care. I be me. That's what it is, man. Yes. Just be you. It's simple. It's simple. Like, it's just stressful to not, like, that's why, and I think that's why people love the things I'm doing and why I love the things I'm doing too, is just like, nobody can tell me what to do. I don't care. There's no fear of judgment. I live without fear of judgment. I live without those walls and those borders because then it limits your potential. It limits what you can and can't do. Like even that moment, that brief moment where in my head, I'm like, this is so stupid. Why am I dressed as Waldo? But then I'm like, because it's funny and it's fun and it's enjoyable. And then I just went with it. But imagine if I didn't, I wouldn't have seen that kid, or I wouldn't have, like, there were so many people just that had so much great joy from that. And I'm like, that is great. And that's just the authentic piece. Just no filters, no makeup. I wake up and I go. That's how it is. And I've unfortunately, a lot of like brand deals and partnerships and other avenues I had to turn down because they wanted to alter my story. And I will not allow that. I don't care. I mean, unless you're throwing like $100 million at me, I'll be who you want me to be for $100 million. I mean, you gotta be crazy not to, but But at the nitty gritty of it all is like, if you're going to tell me that this is how I have to do it, then you could find somebody else. I don't care. You need me more than I need you because I'm perfectly content doing my life the way I am and living without somebody telling me how this is how you're supposed to do this or this is how you're supposed to do that. And like I have turned down again a lot of interview requests and a lot that's the beauty of me being like a one-man show. Like I don't have an assistant, I don't have a photographer, I don't have anybody I do everything. I manage all my social medias, I do all my posts my way, I do all my way, I do everything my way. And the moment I stopped doing it my way is the moment I realized what would be the point.
Right.
Like imagine if you're doing your show, right? And someone's like, nah, you can't do it this way. You have to change the name, change the style. Then it's not your show. It's not your hobby, right?
Right.
It's not your thing that you've clearly put a lot of thought and effort and attention to detail and just like love into, right? You've poured over the last, you said year and a half, right? The last year and a half of you pouring love and making these connections with people and all that good stuff. But it wouldn't be fun if you weren't doing it your way.
Right. It wouldn't be. And at that point, like, if you're so afraid of judgment, it's like, because I used to fear judgment so much. And then I got to a point where I was like, well, who am I living for? I have to say mouth today.
It's okay. Like you said, what, swears are the spice of language?
Yes, that is not my own quote, but I once heard it said that swearing is the spice of language. Yeah, I think that's what it was. But who are you living for at that point? And if it's not you, like, you're missing out on a like fully realized human experience. And ultimately, fear of judgment is a really scary thing when you're stuck in the thick of it. But just like when you were like out and about as Waldo, there were definitely people judging you.
Hating on me, thinking I'm
For
probably
sure.
like a drug addict, unhinged. Again, like I said, some people think I'm unhinged depending on the perspective. I think it's fun.
Right.
Joe Schmo might think it's unhinged. I don't. That's the thing is I don't care.
And who is Joe Schmo to you?
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Nothing.
Joe Schmo only matters if you let him matter.
Facts.
Otherwise, he's just like just some random being that you don't have to pay your mind to. And fear of judgment can really, really like affect us if we lose sight of all the positive people that we're impacting by being ourselves. That's what really matters. The people who are naysayers and who don't understand us or don't agree with us, ultimately they don't need to. We don't need to be understood by everybody. We don't need to connect with everyone, but the people who actually like truly benefit from our presence, that's irreplaceable.
Facts.
Yeah. So
It was funny too, actually. So yesterday, there was a silly meta moment with the Waldo. I went to a bookstore and then bought a Where's Waldo book, and then I went to a park and just sat there reading it. And then you could see people processing it in like real time as they were walking by. It was super meta. And it was so hard not to break character and not laugh. Like while I'm sitting there, like I was like chuckling behind it. Like it was silly, but that was just one of the like the sidebar little fun caveats of yesterday. And I'm going to keep doing these things. I'm going to keep like doing this bucket list stuff. And this is why another reason why I'm super happy that we're here and that like the universe connected us for this, because a lot of people just, they only think of me as, I mean, granted, like I play it up with the Crocs. I have to, that's the number one, like business part side of things is like, you know, helps pay the bills. But there's like the story, the backstory, and where I came from, and what led me to where I am now and here. And you know, again, it's silly. Like I'm wearing a Crocs, baby Croc, duck Crocs on a gold chain because I can. And it's just silly. And I'm sure people double, triple, quadruple take. I got like my Croc little fanny pack thing or whatever you call this, purse, whatever. It's just to me, it's just fun. And like, it creates good conversations with people. And people, you see like the other side of people and the humanity in people when you talk about the things that make them kind of perk up and brighten up. And I don't know, it's a lot of fun. And this is what I'm going to keep doing. So.
And ultimately, like, everything in life is a choice. Most things, at least, in life are a choice. So why choose to play small and, like, not be your most fun, vibrant self when you can just do whatever makes you?
It's like anger is just, it's poison and it hurts. It, like, hurts the frown. It literally physically hurts the frown. And it's like, why?
It does. And
people like, love to be angry all the time. Makes no sense to me. If you could be happy, granted, like, you know, sometimes certain things out of your control, but if you can choose to do something in that moment that makes you happy, like maybe you're going through a divorce or something, or maybe your house is getting foreclosed on. So sure, those things suck, but what can you do in this moment to shift your mindset? I don't know, go to the bar and play pool with a stranger or darts, or find something in that moment to just, that escape, just to take you away for a little bit. Even if you're miserable for 24 hours and you can be miserable for 23, wouldn't you choose the 23?
Right. Because, you know, like, there are points in our lives where it's difficult for us to muster up happiness. So in times where we can, why choose anger or sadness? And ultimately, like, not only does it impact our lives, but just like spreading light can really make a difference in people's lives in ways that you don't even know or understand. Like, spreading hate does the same exact thing, and you really do, like, it bugs me so much because people just don't know what we're going through. Nobody knows what, like, you don't know what I went through today. I don't know what you went through today. We don't know what Joe Schmo went through today. And who are we to make anybody's day potentially worse, even if they had a great day? Like, it's just nobody's place to rain on other people's parades when you can do the opposite.
I'm a firm believer in that. And I'm at the point in my life where I'm just going to try to do all things love that I just love to do. Granted, I'm going to have bad days. I'm a human being. Things are going to happen that are going to push me off course. But as long as and this goes for anybody, as long as you still know what the goal is at the end, and you still, you know, it's going to be a windy road, but as long as that wind is slowly inching forward,
right?
You know what I mean? And like, if I can include people in these bucket list stuff, I do as much as I can just to help. You never know where that reach is going to be. And like, I'll give you an example of another bucket list thing I'm doing in October. So one thing on my bucket list is go to a complete stranger's wedding. I don't care who, and just party. And
like, crash a wedding?
Yeah, well, with their permission.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had posted about it on my Instagram that I want to do that. And I got flooded with like 200 responses of people inviting me to their wedding.
No
so I had to like,
way.
yes. And I had to like wheedle it down. Like, obviously, number one, it has to be in the United States. Sorry, I'm not going to Italy. I'm just too far.
Oh
not going to France.
So cool.
I did. I got invited to Italy. I got invited to
should.
France. I got invited. There was a bunch of countries. The UK.
Are you kidding? You should go.
I thought about it, but hold on.
Go to all of them.
I know I should really.
Europe.
I should. But so because I think one is fine. I can go to one, and so I dwindled it down to this one couple. I think they're in Ohio. It's not till October. It's going to be a lot of fun. They're both Croc lovers, so that like threw me. That was like, oh, sold Crocs. And they're going to allow me to wear Crocs, and I'm going to be the flower boy in their wedding.
Oh my God.
Their family has no idea. I've been practicing, so I have a whole dance routine I'm doing and this whole bit. Nobody knows other than the bride, the groom, and I think their bridesmaid or whatever that's called or something. And so, like, come October, I'm just flying out there, just showing up to this stranger's wedding in my best tux, in these crazy, hilarious Crocs, and then the music's going to start playing. I'm just going to start dancing and throwing and part of the fun is a lot of the family loves Crocs too, so some of the flowers aren't going to be flowers. It's going to be gibbets. I'm going to be throwing out gibbets and flowers.
My
And
gosh.
like, and so this whole experience, they're going to be so confused. Like, who is this guy? Why is he here? How did this happen? They're like, surprise, we got this random Croc dude from Connecticut to crash our wedding. And like, that's going to be an experience for all of us. It's going to be a shared, like, this is like, for me, again, selfish reasons, I get to cross it off my bucket list. I get to get that.
But that's not
joy.
Selfish. I don't think it's selfish at all. I think that, sorry, I didn't mean to cut
No,
you
no,
off.
that's okay. That's okay. It's your show.
No, but you're my guest. But I just think that it's not selfish at all to do exactly what you want to do, because you don't know it's like a community building exercise.
Yeah, it really
you're
is.
doing. Like,
all of this.
Everyone benefits. Everyone has a better time when you just do what you want to do.
And it's just even like these are things I can tell my future kids one day and like share, like, because again, I don't have there's no record or anything of me existing as a kid. And that hurts to like look back on it. But it's outside of my control. I can't just reverse time, be a kid again and have parents, that wasn't the cards that I was dealt. But now I'm doing all these things now, making up for it. And then one day maybe I'll have my kids. Hopefully they like Crocs. If they don't, going up for adoption. Joking. Joking.
Could you imagine? They hate Crocs.
Yeah, right? Oh, God. Luckily, my dogs don't care for my Crocs because I would be so upset if they try to eat them. But that's all. Sidebar. But so like this wedding idea is just the microcosm of what the bucket list is about. It's just live free, live fun, and just do this random, like, and then while I'm there, like, I have, like, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame happens to be, and that's on my bucket list too. The NFL Hall of Fame, which is, I already looked up the venue. It's like an hour from there. Like, I can just rent a car, drive, like, so I can do all these other stuff in between all that. So really, who loses? And I'm paying the couple. I'm helping them with a nice, generous gift of Crocs and money. So, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just having fun, man. I'm just vibing. And I'm really, long game, end game, is I'm writing a book about all these experiences of the bucket list of, and so that's what.
Is there writing a book? Is that on your bucket list?
Which it is, but I already crossed that off in 2015. I did publish. It was a book of poetry, just random book of narrative poetry. It's really cool. But
oh my gosh, I'll have to read it. I love poetry.
all right, yeah. Well, I'll send it to you after. But just so the bucket list book itself is just for me. This is the one. Like, again, a lot of these things, I guess, like I said, I call it selfish because I do it to bring myself joy. But really, it's, to help, like you said, the community building. But the book is for me, just like I want to look back on it and all these experiences. These are the things that make me happy, and nobody can take that from me. Nobody can take those experiences, these moments, these memories, everything I do. Every day, like, I'm already plotting for next weekend to do. I'm doing more bucket list stuff next weekend, and I have a couple days where I have stuff planned out, and I just, like, even thinking about doing these things makes me so happy and motivated. I'm like, I can't wait to get to Friday or Saturday just to do these things. And man, I recommend anybody and everybody getting a bucket list and just starting, even if you don't want to call it that, just a goals list of like fun stuff, and just start doing it. And there's like no feeling greater than when you accomplish something on that list and then you take the pen and you like physically cross it off. It's so cool because you're like in real time realizing it, and like that, it just seeing it there. I don't know. It's satisfying to me, Ellie. It's like some people like crunching leaves. It's satisfying. I mean, when you're like walking, it's like crossing it off. It's so great. Oh man,
that's
so
amazing.
Happy.
I think this moment is on my bucket list. I wrote a bucket list a while ago, and you're inspiring me though. I'm gonna start referring back to a bucket list and like keeping up with it very religiously now. But I do believe that I wrote down, because it was shortly after I started the podcast, it was like record in a professional studio.
There you go. So, and like, again, sometimes it can be intimidating to like, oh, I have this bucket list, inspire you.
Right.
Just take a literally like Steve from Blue's Clues, a little notebook, a little crayon, and just write a couple cool things you want to do for the week. Maybe this week you want to go to a museum, and maybe you've never been to them. It doesn't have to be these big,
They
like,
should just excite you.
Yes,
just
and go to the museum.
You think will expand you in some way.
Yeah, go try. I don't know. Maybe you want to do indoor go-karting, which is fun. I did it last year for the first time. It was awesome. Like these little, like, go do something. Try something new. Go to a new restaurant. Try new wine. Try non-alcoholic wine.
Yeah.
Try, you know what I mean? Like, just try all these new things. And I guarantee, and you and everyone is the collective you right now, your life will change. You will start being happier. You will start now motivating yourself to do more. Because once you do one thing, like I remember after graduate high school, number 2 on my list is get an associate's degree, which then number 3, get a bachelor's degree. Then number 4, and then like as I progressively went through that list, like I actually have 3 associate degrees. I have 2 bachelors, 2 like, you know what I mean? Like that's a whole nother story. I love school. I'm all for education. I'm all for higher learning. I'm all for people leveling up in their lives, however they see fit. But just crossing these things, and one item leads to the next, which leads to the next, which leads to the next, which leads to all 500 whatever stuff. And like another one is like go to like kind of like the wedding thing. It's go to a stranger's birthday party. Like to me, that is just so cool and random. Like find a stranger, party with their friends and family for one night. That person, it's their birthday. They're the star of the show. Drinks and food free for them all night. Let's do it. You know what I mean? Like, and make them feel like $1 million for that one, even if it's just that one night. And they will never forget that birthday after that. They could be turning 60 and be like, I remember my 28th birthday because we had this random dude, stranger there, and we partied and danced all night, and it was awesome.
That's incredible. Like, no one doesn't benefit from that. Like,
facts.
Everyone
except for the people who are hungover in the morning, but you know.
Yeah, but I feel like in cases like that,
it's worth it.
You wear the hangover with pride. I've learned to wear hangovers with pride.
That was me this morning. I was like, Waldo partied a little too hard last night.
Gosh.
Which is true, because I went to the bar dressed as Waldo in character the whole night. Around. Yeah, it was a wild night. It was fun.
Oh, man. But you're like quite literally a master manifestor, and you did it like accidentally, and it just kind of transformed into this thing. And now you lead your life so intentionally, but in such a fun, lighthearted way. And I think that's kind of like the trick. A lot of people think that to set goals and to be driven and to like want to like have a bucket list is like you need to be really serious, and like you need to, you know, you have to like say no to a lot of things in order to like make things happen. But also you don't have to have that perspective. You can just ask yourself, how can I have more fun in my life?
Yes. And then like people like, well, I need money to do this XYZ. Not all, like my Waldo costume was like $10 collectively from Amazon. Like, it costs free to walk around town as well. You know what I mean? Not everything costs, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, whatever people have on their list, but you can find cheap, fun things to do. You don't have to fly to the Eiffel and go see the Eiffel Tower. I mean, that could be on your list, but maybe that's down the road when you're in a better financial position or something. Like, that's the whole point of bucket list too, is it's not to put everything shouldn't be easy. It has to be stuff that you have to work towards or that it maybe is attainable at some point. And you know that once you complete that, like maybe like Appalachian Trail, that's on my bucket list. Right now it's not feasible because it takes a long time. It takes like 4 months from beginning to end, and you have to clear out 4 months of your life on pause to do that. Mm-hmm. And one day I'm going to do that. And to me, to realize that is going to be fantastic. And all like the memories I'll create along the trail, and like so imagine doing that. Like I'm going to solo do that. I mean, you know what I mean?
So
what?
Awesome. That's
the friends I'll make along the way, the experiences.
You might meet somebody who has a home in Paris, and then you get to see the Eiffel Tower and stay for free. Like, that's the thing. You just don't know what will happen when you just start saying yes to yourself.
Yes, and start like living. You have to live. And I you know, I keep going back to the bucket list, and I'm sorry for taking all this time, but it's just so important that is I guess the theme behind it is to take yourself outside of your comfort zone, because life isn't going to be easy all the time. And like when I was writing it as a kid, I was so nervous of the world, as you can imagine. I didn't have a lot of trust in people. I didn't have a lot of faith in people. I laid in bed all day long for weeks on end, and I didn't do anything with my life. And I was like, I got to start doing stuff. I got to stop being dependent on, you know, like I remember like one of the things was to do a solo hike. I was terrified the entire time, from the beginning, the middle, the end. But then after, I was like, I did that. And it was, what? It was great.
And you can do it again.
And I have.
Right.
And I've done so much more now. Like that fear of being alone, it just controlled my life for so long. And then I said, I'm just going to live now. I'll be alone and live.
Right.
Would you rather be alone and not live or alone? You know what I mean? That's twisting, the perspective,
And
shifting it.
Once you embrace the fear starts to dissipate, and you realize that, like, being alone, when you embrace it, you feel like you're in the best company ever. You don't feel alone. It's like the fear of being alone is actually the discomforting factor. It's not the actual being alone. If you can learn to embrace yourself and embrace desires, your life, celebrate your life in whichever ways you can, small or large, then you don't feel alone at all because you're with yourself. And you are literally like the best friend that you could be for yourself.
Words to live by. Bless up. Absolutely.
But I feel like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good spot to end on. That's that's the best button end to an episode I could possibly think of.
Amen. A Croc.
Hey, a Croc.
No more amen. We're canceling amen in 2024. It's a Croc. Moving forward. Bless up, everybody.
Bless up. I love that. Thank you so much for joining us on Try, Adjust, Thrive today. It's been truly a blessing. Such an honor. Such a thrill. Yeah.
Happy to be here. Listen, happy to help. That's all it is.
I want to like ask you like an ending question. If there's one piece of advice you could give to people to try, adjust, thrive more, what would it be?
I don't like to have regrets, but I will say if I had to pick one, it was I lived so much of my life with anger, especially towards like my biological family and my social workers as a kid. And it was just anger weighed me down. And that became my personality. I was just so hurt. Like you said, hurt people. Yeah. And I was just so closed off to the world. And I helped contribute to my own demise in that way. So like looking back on it, I missed out on so much of my life because of anger and just holding those grudges. So I always tell people, you don't have to forgive everybody. You don't have to befriend your ex or whatever, but you can be cordial. You can learn to live. You can let go those feelings of frustration and pissed off. And maybe you can find closure. Maybe you can reach out. Maybe your closure is you letting go. You know what I mean? Not everything has to have this grand finale. Yes. You got to let go. Otherwise, you're going to be poisoned your whole life. And I am the number one textbook example that I was poisoned for so long. And even, now, and part of my life is just remedying things and just making up for the person I was when I had nothing. That was a different person. The person you are when you have nothing, you are the worst version of yourself. And unfortunately, some people, that's all they're going to remember you by. And there's some people who do remember me for my worst days when I was homeless, living on the streets, eating scraps out of trash cans. This is true. I used to pick through dumpsters to eat so I didn't die. You just got to let go. You got to move on. Move on for you. Move on for your family. Move on for your friends. Move on for your dogs. Move on for your cats. Because think about it. If you're not your best self, you're not going to be taking care of them the best that you can.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was amazing. One more time, thank you so much for repeat that. Thank you so much for being here and joining us. And lastly, as always, be kind to yourself.